All right, Teal Nation, Strut Nation, we are carrying on. It's still crossover season. Strut is covering every single thing we can get our hands on. There is going to be no loss, guys. Strut Nation, Teal Nation. There's going to be no loss for. I guess we can say we're going to be content rich when it comes to coastal scores, results, breakdowns, all that kind of stuff of what's happening in terms of other sports, the headlines that are going on. Certainly, we're going to hit some of the big things in this episode. We're going to kick it off with football, hit the men's basketball coaching announcement, and then slide into our spring sports and kind of hit some of the highlights there. TD was in the crowd against, well, I guess in the Wake Forest game. But before we get to all that amazing coastal coverage, Joe is wearing his tuxedo tonight, TD. Did you notice that?
I did notice that. It's a special occasion this week.
Yes, there most certainly is. Oldest daughter getting married on Saturday, and the weather looks like it's going to be pretty good here in our area of operations. So we're looking forward to that. And I came dressed for the occasion. This is what I will be wearing on Saturday out in the pasture.
Joe, how's what's the latest with mother-in-law? Is she going to be okay to get there?
Yeah, man.
She's not going to be able to get there, but she is doing much better, and they kind of moved her into a place where she can get some really good rehab starting very soon if she hadn't already started it. So, I mean, that's really good. We're going to live stream it from where we are, so she can at least see it. So that we're going to have that base covered. I hate that this all happened. She can't get there, but the next best thing is that she'll be able to at least see it as we live stream it. So.
Joe, if it's okay with you, TD and I don't mind kind of like hosting it for her. We could just live stream it, and TD, you and I could kind of do this.
And the bride is coming down the aisle. Chili, she's wearing Vera Wang this evening. And
yes.
we could totally pull this off. The Flower Girls illuminate the entire event. Uh-oh, wait a minute. She's over pedaled one area. That's okay. It's cute as a button.
She just sneezed. That's okay.
That's okay. She's only 3. She's fantastic. And
Joe,
what is Joe wearing tonight?
Joe is wearing the Strut tuxedo that he wore at the Strutty Awards that he didn't take off for 3 days because he was partying all the whole time after the Strutty, that his famous Joe Cashin's karaoke Strutty post party, whatever you call it.
We
Joe.
had the post party, then we had the after post party, and then we had the post of the after the post party. So it stretched for 72 hours after the Strutties. It was unbelievable.
After
TD,
party,
Joe skipped the recess because he don't play.
It was the
Joe, let me ask you a quick question. In all the planning y'all were doing for the wedding, and we'll get into actual real Strut stuff here in a second. I got to ask you this question though. In all the planning you were doing for the wedding, did you ever take a moment and maybe consider doing a Strut themed wedding?
I honestly can't say that I did, Chili. It probably should have crossed my mind.
I'm thinking like the cake topper could have the Strutty logo.
No.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
I think your daughter would be really upset if there was a Strut podcast themed wedding. I think
I disagree. I'd like to hear TD be the officiant, Joe.
Look, funny, interesting story.
Can you imagine TD officiating this thing? How great would that be?
Man,
dearly beloved, we are gathered here to dovetail off what Jesus said about nuptials.
Well, we're going to put a bow in this thing. Do you? Do you? Well, kiss the damn thing. Kiss the damn fool. Let's go. Cold beers in the back. Somebody slice the chicken. Let's do it.
And I'm gonna wrap it up right here.
Yeah, gonna put a bow right
now. Finally, I pronounce you husband and wife.
I tell you what,
we're gonna go ahead and land the plane.
Hey,
after my sermon,
I almost officiated a wedding. A friend of mine, he loved him to death. We'll leave names and aliases out of it. But long story short was, 4 days before the wedding, they decided to call it off. And so I was sitting there. I respected their decisions. I counseled both of them. And needless to say, I'm still over on officiating a wedding. And I had a great layout too, man. Had a couple one-liners in there that were appropriate, about each one of them. Had a good quick sermon. And
TD, do you want to share one of those one-liners with us right now?
No, I'm good because it may reveal who they were. So
Okay,
we're
fair
gonna move on from that. But
I thought they might have put something on Twitter. Respect our decision.
yeah,
When you
yeah.
said
Well,
that, we
hey,
decided not to do this. Respect
they
our decision.
transferred.
with that being
Ooh.
said,
With that being said.
With that being said, CD, thank you for the segue. Joe, I know like there's a lot of things that you're responsible for coming up in a couple of days here at Stately Cashin Manor, but I need you to be mindful of something leading up to Saturday and all the excitement is, Joe, don't get hurt. But if you do get hurt, Joe, let me give you some advice. Give Dr. David Turner a call, Coastal Class of 97 of Impact Chiropractic. He's been practicing in Conway for 20 years. Dr. Turner believes in a proactive, wellness-based approach to achieving optimal health and function for the entire family. Joe, at Impact Chiropractic, we work hard to grow healthy kids rather than fix damaged adults. 210 Singleton Ridge Road in Conway, impactchiro.com, 843-347-9103. Spring practice is about to start, and the football schedule is out. Joe, I think you said you had something ready for us when it comes to some of the football talk we were going to kick things off with tonight.
Yeah, spring practice actually has started. It started yesterday. They'll have 15 practices over 5 weeks. It will culminate on April the 13th. Not sure if they're going to have a spring game or anything like that right now as it stands. I kind of, and I'm just me speaking, I have no idea if they're going to do this or not, but I'd like to see something like that just personally on a Saturday, right? I mean, it's great outreach, get some fans out there, have them watch a little bit. Don't have to be terribly, exotic in what you do, but I think it's always a great fan outreach. But be great to see, get some autograph sign, that kind of thing. But anyway, first of 15 spring practices started yesterday, and so again, it will culminate on Saturday, April the 13th. Team coming off, of course, an 8-5 year, bowl win, bucket trip, road list kind of year, right? Braden Bennett is back, leading rusher. Ethan Vasco back with a full complement of quarterbacks in that quarterback room. Be interesting to see how all this shakes out, how those guys do this spring. Juwan Powell, our leading tackler, is back as well. So looking forward to seeing how things develop here in Tim Beck's second year, coming off an 8-win year last year. And something we didn't really mention a couple of weeks ago when they finally finalized it was the football schedule coming up here in 2024. And I want to get kind of some roundtable on this going here as soon as I kind of mention this. Obviously, we knew that Jacksonville State's our opener on the road. William and Mary at home at Temple, Virginia coming in after that. And then we have conference play starting. Old Dominion coming to us, a Thursday night game after that. Finally, we don't have James Madison last game of the year, right? So we get a few days to quick turn around, go to James Madison on October the 10th on a Thursday, come home to Louisiana. Finally, after all the madness and nonsense and foolishness that happened in 2020, we get these guys again. I think the league kind of missed an opportunity by not pairing us up in 21. But hey, we get the Cajuns on our field come October the 19th. Then we go to Troy on my birthday, November the 2nd. And then another quick turnaround. App State comes in for yet another Thursday night matchup with the Mountaineers on November the 7th. And then it's at Marshall. And then, again, it's kind of interesting how all this works out. We get the Georgia teams back-to-back for like the 6th straight year, right? We wrap up the home schedule November 23rd with Georgia Southern, and then we're at Georgia State. At Georgia State, interestingly enough, a couple of days after Thanksgiving. So that's kind of how they worked out the 2024 schedule in terms of how the league schedule looks. So I'd like to get you guys' thoughts on this. I'm interested in it. I'm glad, just a couple of things. I'm glad that we don't play James Madison last. We get Georgia State last, and we finally get Louisiana back on the schedule. So just a couple of my thoughts there.
Go ahead, CD.
So quick thoughts of mine are, one, no odd weekday games. Positive, right? And I totally get it, right? ESPN put us on Tuesday, Wednesday versus App up there in Boone. It's a fantastic audience. It's actually still, if you look back over the last 3 times we've played them, 2 of those times, 4 times we played them, 2 of those times were on kind of odd nights. It's actually one of the better midweek games that they have the last couple times. I mean, literally, it's been 1 or 2 for either their Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday games. That's up against ACC, SEC, Pac-12, whomever. It's typically 1 or 2 of the most highly viewed games. So first, no odd weekday games. To me, how about the brand names that are going to be in Conway, right? No disrespect to William and Mary. William and Mary is a good club. The Tribe are I'm sure, a very quality FCS school. We'll dive into that closer. But Virginia, Old Dominion, Louisiana, App State, and Southern all coming to Conway. Those are fantastic brands that we're going to have at home. I mean, I can't remember a home slate that had that many quality brand names that were going to be coming in. Additionally, I like the fact that the App State game's on a Thursday. I like the fact that the James Madison game's on a Thursday. Yeah, they're short weeks, but historically as a program, we've actually played good on short weeks. We've done well. So I like that, especially for those two games. And you know what? I kind of like the mix-up with Southern and State later in the year, ODU, JMU earlier in the year. I'm looking forward to finally, for the first time, and Joe Chili, again, kick it back to y'all. This is the first major mix-up in our schedule since we added the teams a couple years ago, where we've shifted some, September teams to November, some October teams to November, November teams to September. I like that. Again, I think it just brings some brands that may be different, and every one of those brands are going to travel. I mean, you think about it. Virginia's going to bring fans. ODU is going to bring fans. Louisiana's probably the only one that may not. However, with it being on a Saturday, that's my caveat. They may travel because it's on a Saturday, and they may try to get to the beach. But then App State on Thursday, that's going to be bonkers. And then Southern a day after my birthday, Joe. And the good thing is, for the first time that I can remember, our last game, or the game around Thanksgiving break, which has historically been very challenging for our students to stay for, no disrespect to our students, it's actually away. I think that actually might be an advantage for us. I know that's weird to say, but I think ending the year away, I looked at that and went, we're going to have a big crowd for the Southern game, and then hopefully send our guys to Atlanta sitting there at 11-0, undefeated in the conference and up for a conference championship. But more to come in the fall. But I'm excited for the schedule. I mean, a lot of brand names home and away this year.
It's a fun schedule too, in my opinion, because TD, I agree, having App State at home on a Thursday is going to be fun. That's always a good one, and I agree 100% with you that no more Tuesday morning, Wednesday evening games. We got a Thursday night one. We got everything else is on a Saturday. It's a regular college football schedule. So overall, in my opinion, number one, I think it's a fun schedule. Secondly, I agree 100% with you again, TD, on the end of the season schedule when it comes to us playing My Lather Week as the last home game of the season this year, and then going to Turner Field to finish the season. Joe, I know you're excited about finishing your regular season at your favorite stadium in the entire Sun Belt.
With the best view, but right, Chili, with the absolute best view to call a game.
He can see all the balls and strikes in Turner Field. It's going to be fun having Louisiana. And I think, Joe, you're going to – I don't know if have you been to Troy before, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even the road schedule, I think it's fun. And TD, one more thing I do agree with you on the schedule is almost every one of these people that we have coming to Conway this year is probably going to bring a pretty good crowd. I don't know about William and Mary, how well they travel, but I mean, I can just see a lot of Virginia fans coming down, late September to our area because it's a good time to be down here versus being up there. So I think it's going to be a fun home season this year.
Joe, let me ask this. Did we go to Troy in back-to-back years, or am I misremembering that? There was a weird year there. We went to somebody, I felt like twice or something or like 2 out of 3 years, like where we were away. We didn't play them. We were away. I swear I felt like that was Troy. I could be wrong, but
we've been to Troy 3 times. We played the championship game in 22 at Troy when we didn't play them in the regular season. So we went ahead and played them anyway. I mean, we're 3-3 against them, or 1-2 there. It's a great place to go. I mean, it's kind of down there in the middle of nowhere, an hour south of Montgomery. But I mean, their fans turn out and they make a lot of noise. It's a great atmosphere down there.
And we didn't mention Temple yet going to Philadelphia for that away game on September 14th either. They play in the Eagles Stadium. So.
Yep, that's going to be an interesting trip.
If I did my math right, I think it was 8 or 9 teams that were bowl eligible or played in bowls last year. If I did my math right on counting those. William and Mary, obviously FCS.
Jacksonville State.
Temple did not. And
they win, right? Jacksonville State did.
Yeah, Jacksonville State
did. Louisiana.
I think it was Temple and William and Mary in Virginia were the only 3 schools on our schedule that did not participate in the bowl. I believe everybody else did. Just trying to quickly reflect on that. I bring that up because that's 9 out of 12 teams that we played that were in the postseason. Now, maybe William and Mary made the FCS playoffs. I can't, again, forgive me, William and Mary, for those fans, but I can't remember if they made the playoffs or not.
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did either. I don't think they did either. But nevertheless, 9 out of the 11 FBS schools made a bowl game. That's pretty solid, gentlemen. That's pretty solid. And you figure Virginia's going to be a lot better this year, right? What their turnaround is, what they're going to be doing. It'll be pretty interesting. Maybe we could be going. We could, if we come out of September 4-0, man, that'd be pretty special. Beating Temple and beating Virginia, taking care of business versus William and Mary. Jacksonville State. Look, Jacksonville State's going to be no joke. Playing Jacksonville State in Alabama, August 31st. I remember watching Jacksonville State play their first FBS game last year versus, was it UTEP? And it was hotter than 40 hells, it looked like, on that field there. I mean, it looked like the sweat had sweat. I mean, it was brutal looking, man. And interesting too, we have 1 or 2 Chanticleers that transferred to Jacksonville State, if I remember correctly. So would be interesting to see that dynamic play out. But I'm excited. I think Joe's doing the math right now. I think it's 9 out of 12 teams that we play again. 9 out of 11 FBS schools made a postseason game last year. So I think Virginia and, again, Virginia Temple were the only 2 that did not.
I don't see William and Mary making the playoffs last year.
Right.
Joe,
that's a heck of a schedule, man. That's a heck of a schedule.
Okay.
Former Coastal assistant coach Carone Cox is at Virginia, so he'll be making a bit of a homecoming when he comes here. So, and Dave Patnode was an analyst for them last year. He's now at Buffalo, so one of my favorite all-time Coastal football coaches. Dave
and he
Patnode.
was at Temple for a while too. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, he left Coastal to go to Temple. Then he went to Georgia Tech.
That's right. So it's going to be a formidable schedule. Again, last year was the toughest schedule we've ever faced. This upcoming year is now going to be, and that's what you want, right? We don't like App State that much, but you got to give App State credit. They did some of this when they got into the FBS, and now they're playing consistently. North Carolina, South Carolina, NC State, East Carolina. They're playing some of those schools to where, and if I remember correctly, App State's got Clemson this year on the schedule at Clemson. So
yes,
right. I think that might be a 2-1 deal where they've got to play them 2 home first. And I think Clemson's supposed to, pending conference realignment, is supposed to go to Boone. That's part of that 2-1 package, which hopefully Coastal can start to get some of those 2-1 packages. Maybe we broker some deals with a North Carolina or NC State or a Wake or someone like that, or Virginia. Virginia's a classic example, right? Virginia's a 2-1 deal. For those who don't know, a 2-1 deal is we have to play them 2 times at home, 1 time at our place. So I'm excited for next year. But you know what? Chili, we got a lot to talk about.
I think it's time. Let's put a little full court pressure on the latest announcement we had this week, and we've got a new color to cheer for when it comes to Coastal basketball, and that's gray. Justin Gray. Justin Gray was announced as our new head basketball coach. And guys, I got a brief bio on him, just some stats about him as a coach and a player. And also, TD and Joe and Teal Nation, Strut Nation, I found some quotes other people and other coaches were saying about him upon his hiring and his coaching career to date. So coming out of high school, Justin Gray was ranked the 86th best senior in the 2002 recruiting class nationwide. He went to Wake Forest, Joe, played for one of my favorite ACC basketball coaches, Skip Prosser. He did a wonderful job at Wake Forest. Tragically, he passed away early, but everybody I've ever heard of that talked about Skip Prosser talks about him in glowing terms as a person and as a head basketball coach. While at Wake Forest, Justin Gray shared backcourt time with Chris Paul. Chris Paul played point guard. Justin Gray was a shooting guard on that team. Justin Gray was an ACC All-Freshman. He's a 3-time All-ACC player. After leaving Wake Forest, he'll play professionally throughout Europe, namely places like Germany, Greece, China, France, and some other smaller Eastern European places. When he's done playing basketball, he'll go back to Wake Forest as the director of player development. He'll begin his assistant coaching career with Pat Kelsey, who's now the head coach at the College of Charleston, but he was at Winthrop at the time. He is hired at Western Carolina as a head coach April of 21. During his time as a head coach of the Catamounts, he will compile a 51-46 record at Western. They will finish 22-9 last season. I did read a stat from Western Carolina's site about him, and he was the first coach. Yeah, I think, if I'm wrong and y'all know better, please correct me, but I think it was about 20-some years that actually guided Western Carolina into back-to-back postseason tournaments. They were into CBI, I think, and he got them in there. And I know some places are kind of like, well, whatever, but if you haven't had a winning culture and you begin to get those postseason practices and getting tournament time and that kind of stuff, that is such an important thing for the building of a program. So he was beginning to get them more and more consistent in the off season. And he's got to be a heck of a recruiter if he's getting talent to go to Western Carolina and begin to win and make some postseason. So Pat Kelsey said, as a quote about Justin Gray, that Justin Gray is a brilliant hire. He gives him so much credit for NEAD for giving any kind of recognition to Justin's elite gifts, which are plentiful. And Pat Kelsey said that Justin Gray is going to be a star in the college coaching ranks. This is from Chris Mack, who is the current head coach at Louisville. They worked together at Wake Forest for a period of time, that he's so happy for Justin anytime he gets a coaching opportunity. Seeing him go from an assistant to a head coach, he's certainly thrilled about him. He said players will love his approach, his ability to connect with other players, and at the same time, bring the competitive spirit that he's always had as a player to his head coaching, tenure. Lastly, this is from Jay Billis, ESPN college basketball analyst. Joe, he's a Duke guy, but we're going to overlook that right now.
Doesn't he favor allowing Duke players to trip other players and not be accountable for it? But I digress.
Yeah, he's kind of looking the other way on that one. And he's a lawyer in real life, too. Justin Gray is a fabulous choice. He is a great basketball mind and a first-class person. Jay Billis says that Justin Gray is a terrific leader and a fine young coach. So according to what we're hearing as far as the quotes about him, the people who have worked with him, that kind of stuff, that we've got a good one. I'm excited to see what the press conference says tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow at 3:00, if I'm not mistaken on that. And we're going to officially introduce Justin Gray as the next head basketball coach for Coastal Carolina.
I tell you what, it's exciting because, look, I'll be direct and candid about it. Look, we wish everybody who was a part of the program the best of luck. And I think Benny's already been mentioned in an opportunity elsewhere. We wish him nothing but the best, the entire staff. This is a new day starting tomorrow with culture, structure, and trajectory of the program. Call it what it is, but we finished in literally the bottom 10 or 20 of the RPI or net rating. And there's an opportunity to really grow and build. There's an opportunity, too, to utilize the ACC Center in its current form and then eventually get to a higher quality, higher level, if you will, facility. It's not poor quality, but at some point we're going to need to graduate to another facility and allow it to be utilized for other purposes. And Dr. Benson was on our podcast, and he's talked about that, right? So I'm not saying anything out of turn here. But I will say this, though, Chili. Now that he's going to be near the beach a little more, he's going to have to tee it up a little bit more. He's got to play a little more golf, right? He's got to practice a little bit on his short game and his long game. Chili, tell me so I can tell our listeners where Coach Gray can now go and be he can have the Strut podcast in his AirPods while working on his short game and his long game. Who can I refer him to for that? Oh, you muted, Bubba. You muted.
No, I'm not. If Coach Gray is looking to reach out and go somewhere and play a little golf, TD, I think he should probably go check out Coastal Outdoor. What do you think?
So I tell you what, Coastal Outdoors is an operated and managed coastal alumni business. Again, they have Myrtle Beach Family Golf. Myrtle Beach Family Golf is golf fun for everyone, and now including Coach Gray. He can also visit 4 mini golf facilities and 1 driving range through the family fun, through Coastal Outdoors and Myrtle Beach Family Golf. Again, Captain Hook's Adventure Golf, he can work on his bump and runs there. Jungle Safari, he can work through some of those challenging rough areas. Jurassic Golf, remember, you got to go through T-Rex's legs there, right? So it's almost one of those lag putts. Shipwreck Island Adventure Golf, stay out of the water. And then Cane Patch Driving Range, right? He can try to pepper holes in the back of that net about 300 yards back there, and while having a Strut podcast there. But again, Myrtle Beach Family Golf, operated by Coastal Outdoors, and again, operated and managed by Coastal alumni. We're excited to have them, as always, as one of our partners, and hopefully Coach Gray will try out one of those 5 facilities to improve his long and short game.
TD, why don't you go ahead and seg Joe for Hanley's, because I fell behind not giving you a seg for
It's all
Myrtle Beach
right.
Family Golf.
Joe, I saw Andrew Hanley last night and his beautiful wife, Kelly. They were walking into the baseball game, and we'll get to that. Told them how much we appreciate them and everything that all our sponsors do. But Joe, if I'm going Friday afternoon ahead of first pitch for the JMU game, and we're trying to get 5,000 strong there again, what's a great place that I could go get a cold beer and a good bite to eat?
Not just a great place, TD. There's only one place. That's Hanley's Pub. CCU Class of 2002, the official pub of the Strut Podcast, located in Carolina Forest. We will see you at your local pub. Hanley's in Carolina Forest, 3873 Renee Drive, Myrtle Beach. Call them 843-903-4904. Hanley's Pub, again, the official pub of the Strut Podcast. Go there, hit it up, get you whatever you want to get yourself ready for this weekend series coming up against JMU. And before we go to that, I just wanted to chime in just a quick second on the men's basketball hiring, too. I think Justin Gray's a tremendous hire. I think they did their due diligence here. Matt, everyone involved in the search, nothing but the best I've heard of Justin Gray, and really excited. TD, agree with you 100%. Next step needs to be a new arena. That's just the bottom line. We've got to get to where the other Sunbelt schools are, and got to get there quickly. And again, you mentioned Dr. Benson coming on. He laid it all out there. Looking forward to a new arena that will help tremendously in recruiting. And again, you said something about Benny. Tremendous individual. Love Benny Moss. Always great to me. Radio, first-class guy in every way. I saw his name tied to Central Arkansas, perhaps.
That's who I saw. Sugar Bears of Central Arkansas. That's who I saw.
That might be his landing spot. Couldn't be happier for him. Matt Hurt, also a quality individual, been around for a long time. Wish the whole staff the best of luck. They did a great job here at Coastal, but it was time for change, and Justin Gray will be announced on Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
We'll try to get him on through our channels of relationships. We'll try to get him on somehow. Can't guarantee anything, but we'll try to get him on. And excited. I'm with you, Joe. Very excited about the trajectory of the program.
And it's good we're a part of a good team, the three of us, because you two just picked me up from missing a segue there. So appreciate that, fellas. Let's go ahead and look at other sports action here. Kind of go through this real quick, guys. Chime in if you've got something you want to share on these. I'm just going to share out some scores and some upcoming matches and whatnot. So beach volleyball will improve to 6-6 on the season with a win over Houston Christian University, and they're facing Tusculum. I mispronounce that one every single time. It's a long school, begins with a T. I think they're in Alabama. Tusculum. There it is.
You got to kind of do Tusculum. You got to kind of talk outside of your mouth. Tusculum.
Let me try it now. Tusculum.
There you go.
They'll be facing them on Friday at home. Ladies golf is at the Florida State Seminole match from March 15th through the 17th. Lacrosse dropped a match to Mercer 24-20, but tomorrow, TD, they face Manhattan. TD, real quick, what is Manhattan's mascot?
Are they the Hatters? No,
Ooh.
that's Stetson. That's Stetson.
That's Stetson. Joe, you know what?
Manhattan.
Are they the Jaspers?
The Jaspers.
They are the Jaspers, correct. Well, we're facing the Jaspers tomorrow at home. Women's tennis faced the Savannah College of Art and Design, beat them 7-0, and will face Texas State in San Marcos on the 16th. That's Saturday. Women's and men's track and field.
Mighty
Scad.
And that's the way it's written on the website, too. Just all 4 capital letters.
That's what it is. When you drive into Savannah, they you see buildings that have SCAD on them.
Yep.
It's great.
It's a
great
nice
school for
welcome,
what you want to do there.
Men's and women's track and field are going to be hosting at Doug Shaw Stadium the Allen Connie Shamrock Invitational starting on the 14th tomorrow. Men's tennis also defeated SCAD 7-0. Will face Elon on the 16th. And finally, men's golf will be at the Dunes Golf and Beach Club for the General James Hackler Championship starting on the 18th and going through the 20th.
Alan Connie is a listener of the Strut, and so
Yes,
I'm glad you mentioned men's and women track and field. He is a listener of this podcast. We appreciate him. He is a Hall of Fame member both of the Big South and the Sassler Hall of Fame. So, Coach, thank you for listening, and great to prop this event up coming up this weekend.
He'd be a fun one to have on the show.
I think he would too. We might have to see if we can make this happen.
I would love to talk to Alan Connie.
I think it'd be neat. Oh, you know what? And since you said that, guess what? Is it my time for a seg?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything.
You know, here I am. I'm kind of promoting Coach Alan Connie and his Hall of Fame career that he had at Coastal. You know, doing some nice promotion of him. Maybe we can promote getting him on TD. If we want to do some promotion, do some marketing, how do we do that? Well, who do we need to talk to?
We need to talk to Bob Baldwin, class of 2011, down there at Coastal Marketing. When you think Coastal, you think marketing. Think Coastal Marketing. Again, hey, he can handle everything from hats to shirts to koozies to print to digital. His entire family has a one-stop shop. Again, Coastal Marketing is the official merchandise sponsor of the Strut Podcast, located down there, 475 Sandy Lane, Suite A, Surfside Beach, America's Beach, 29575. Or give him a shout at 843-349-4848, or go online at coastalmarketinggraphics.com. Bob Baldwin, Coastal Marketing.
Is it really called America's Beach? Or you just call it that?
It is now.
It is now. A TD is sanctified.
He has deemed it
It's
America's
Beach.
It's America's Beach, baby.
Well, then, TD, you're America's sweetheart. All right, batter up. Let's go to softball, baseball. First off with softball, congrats to Rayleigh Brabham. That's my girl. She is tied for first in NCAA and wins. Right now, softball sits at 17-8 overall. They're doing great. They lost a pair recently to top 25 ranked Boston University, but prior to that, guys, and Teal Nation, Strut Nation, they had won 7 in a row before that Boston University series. They faced Troy over the weekend and then Georgia Tech at home on Wednesday. But I was talking to Joe TD before we started recording, and I saw a stat that was very interesting about the softball matchup with Troy coming up.
Are you talking about
RPI-wise.
data? Are you talking about data?
Yes. And this is not Doyle's data. This is data that I actually looked up. I looked up some numbers. Look at that.
Is it
RPI.
misdeceiving though? Is the data misdeceiving? That's the big question.
I guess time will tell. Troy RPI 76 overall. Coastal RPI is 77 going into the Coastal Troy series coming up. So that's going to be interesting. I think there's a chance for some really good softball happening between Coastal and Troy coming up.
Talking to Pop about it, and it's the first time the Sun Belt, I think, has like 7 schools, including Coastal now, inside the top 100 RPI. So again, just like in baseball, the Sun Belt softball bringing on, programs that we brought into the Sun Belt that were already inherently good. It's just enhanced the overall conference. And again, a rising tide floats all boats. So you've got, I think it's 6 or 7 schools, kind of waffles back and forth inside the RPI top 100. First time the Sun Belt's ever had that. Again, massive credit to all the Sun Belt members. Coastal, just keep playing, man. Keep playing, keep winning. And girls are doing great.
And speaking of Sun Belt softball, you kind of hate to give them props, but you got to give Louisiana some props. We're talking about the rising tide of this conference in softball. That they ended Oklahoma's 71 game win streak, 72, whatever it was, a week or two ago. Yeah. And I saw that being discussed on Around the Horn. Was it Around the Horn? No, it was the Wilbon and Kornheiser show. They were talking about that, and it's
PTI?
like PTI exactly. I don't watch it that often, but I happened to catch it this day. And I think the question was, how do you explain something like that? And they were talking about it. And I said, it's sports, man. That happens. Louisiana's pretty good. It happens. It's sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hate to bring them up, hate to mention them, but credit where credit is due.
That's right.
Sun Belt softball, Louisiana beating Oklahoma. And everybody's getting better. Everybody's got to keep up with them. Coastal is doing a great job of keeping up.
Yep. Great. Hey, fantastic facilities at Coastal too, Joe. That's something too we talked about with basketball is fantastic facilities already there. Just need to continue to build the program from the inside out.
Yep.
And I don't know if y'all heard, but there was a kind of a big ball game that happened last night on campus at Coastal with the baseball program. Apparently we've got a decent little baseball team going right now with Coastal. Right now we are 15-2, winners of 14 in a row, TD, in case you haven't heard. We just swept Michigan over the weekend, 3-game sweep. Scores were 8-7 in 12 innings, 19-6 and 11-6. And last night, TD, I'm about to tee you up for your soliloquy on this atmosphere at the Palace. Coastal defeated Wake Forest 17-9. TD, tell us about what it was like inside Springsbrook Stadium just last night.
So what I'll do is I'll give you the great reflection of last night, but I hate not to go back quickly. And since our last show, we swept Upstate, we swept Michigan, right? Before I get to, I'm gonna save the best for last, but we swept Upstate, right? Who is, by the way, they're right there in the Big South, right? They are the pick to be the Big South, and since us, they've won again. So quickly, we took care of business versus Upstate. We took care of business versus Michigan. Game 1 walk-off winner with Zentek. Again, that's propelled him into the starting role. I mean, that he was given an opportunity. He came in, played great defense, really took care of it at the plate. Game winner. Game 2 and Game 3, the legend of Blake Baby Ruth Barthol was born. That joker is swinging a tennis racket, hitting a beach ball right now. I mean, that's what it looks like to him. He finished that weekend with 5 home runs in 3 games. Pitching, Meckley, Schaefer were winners. Smith, Carbone, and others pitched very well, just kind of quickly highlighting. The weight game. Let's talk about this. First and foremost, Teal Nation, Strut Nation, you showed up. Kevin Schnall, Schilling, Coach Gilmore, the entire team, they put out the call. Be there, be loud, be proud. Put cheeks in teal seats. 5,100 plus. The only other atmosphere, gentlemen, that it rivaled, I'm getting goosebumps right now, I swear to God I am, was the Duke game on that Monday night. It was electric, man. The only difference was I wish we had 4 hours of tailgate, but we only had about an hour, right? Again, I tweeted out, leave 5 o'clock sharp, get to the game, or heck, ask your boss to come with you and see if you'll leave early, right? So 5,100 plus in attendance. Blake Baby Ruth Barthol continues to homer now. He's got, 7 home runs, I think, through 6 games, if I remember correctly. Derek Bender was 2 for 3 with a couple doubles, RBIs. Brown gunned out. I mean, Wake Forest was starting to come back. Graham Brown played that ball perfectly off the fence. That kid came around first. He got about halfway thinking, oh, I'm good to go. I'm going to coast in a second. Graham came up and absolutely threw a laser to second base, and they had that kid by 2 steps. Aggressive and smart base running, right? Some of that big league ACC station to station, SEC station to station baseball. We took advantage of that. I don't know if y'all saw that play where we stole second base. If I remember correctly, it was Sam Antonacci stole second base when they were just lightly tossing the ball back to the pitcher. Was it Sam or was it?
It was the Intech.
It was the Intech. Okay, so it was
the Intech singled, and they got caught flat-footed.
They got caught flat. Thank you, Joe.
And the Intech just go whoop.
Yep. So Zentek stole, because I remember it was 10 or 20, because Zentek's 20. Stole second base. Again, aggressive base running. Most hit batman in one college game happened last night. Did y'all realize that stat?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I watched it, yeah.
That was insane. Carbone was the winner. So we can get into stats later, but here it was. TD from the berm. That's what we talked about, right? TD from the berm. It was packed. It was electric. Fans were engaged. They were heckling guys in the bullpen appropriately. They were heckling guys when they came out of the bullpen. Football players were there. I saw other sports there. I saw fans. I have never seen that much energy in a place since a Duke game. It was the largest regular season crowd in school history, and the call went out again. We got JMU this weekend. We're going to get into the preview in a second. They're coming off of a hot streak, too. They lost to Niagara tonight, but they won 10 or 11 straight as well before dropping their first one again, and then dropped another one to Niagara. But, gentlemen, it was one of those where there wasn't a seat on the berm. There wasn't a seat left in the stands. We needed 3 times as many beer vendors. We needed 3 times as many hot dog vendors, and that's a great problem to have, man. The atmosphere was electric. When we hit a home run, that place erupted. And I think Sam and Joe, respectively, on their calls, and on the Sam on the TV call and Joe Katz on the radio call, you could hear the energy just palpitate through the TV and the radio. I know y'all were listening to talking about it. You could feel it was almost like we were at a football game, right? It was almost like the energy in there was almost being at the Coastal App State game at home over 2 years ago. I swear to you, it was that electric. When the crowd got into it, and our fans pulled the little Texas A&M ball 6, ball 6, ball 7, I mean, and you could tell it started to rattle those weight guys. We played clean ball for the most part. The one takeaway I will say from the last week in early season, for all the things that we're doing well, homers, driving runs in, things like that, being aggressive, if we can really clean up the starting pitching a little bit, right? We've had some guys that are doing it. We just have one bad inning, right? And if I can channel my inner Kevin Schnall, my inner Stilling and Coach Gilmore, if we can clean up that one frame, I think too, I'm gonna kick this back to y'all, but that one frame in the first 4 or 5 innings of a start, really, if we can get over that, right, with some of our starters, this team's averaging 12.2 runs a game. I mean, 12.2 runs a game. If it weren't for 2 missed extra points a game, we'd be up 14 points right now. And real proud of our fans, real proud of our guys. Again, I got some other statistics and things like that we get into, but shout out to O'Neal. He started the game. He wasn't factored in the decision. He pitched 4.1 innings, gave up 3 hits, was responsible for 2 runs, had a strikeout. But the young guns in the middle of the game too, they faltered a little bit. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. It happened though, but our offense, they recovered well, right? They recovered. The young guns came back. They recovered. Man, Will Smith's been somebody who's come out now lately. I got to give him props too. Action Smith, listen to the pod. His son, Will, he's got this persona now. When I'm coming out, I'm going to pitch about 3 outs, and I'm going to give you everything for 3 outs, baby. I mean, I'm going to absolutely lay it in there for 3 outs. And but if we clean up the start, stay aggressive, work the box, man, special things could happen at the end of the season. I'd love to hear y'all's impression. What was it like watching it at home?
I'm glad you mentioned O'Neal. That 4.1 was huge last night to get us off to a great start. And I'm going to just point out a couple of turning points. I thought just me watching it from afar, the double play in the top of the first inning, 1 out, they had bases loaded, and I'm kind of sitting there thinking, man, got to get out of this thing with minimal damage if at all possible. You know, don't let Wake get an early foothold in this game, get a couple of runs on the board, and take our crowd out of it. Because unlike last year, the Duke game, when the place, like you say, TD, was absolutely jam-packed from one side of the university to the other, we had nothing to cheer about because Duke jumped on us right away.
Really?
And it almost kind of felt like, man, if Wake does this to us, takes his crowd out of it, we get the double play. O'Neal induces the double play, the ground ball, and he gets a glove on, and then Barthol turns it, right? All of a sudden, bang, it kind of felt like to me, I don't know, with you being there, if I were there, I'd had to energize people.
The place erupted, man.
Yeah, we got out of this with nothing, right? And then we immediately turn around and put a 4 spot on them in the bottom of the inning. And next thing you know, we're off to a 12-0 start. And the first third of the game, so the first third of the games so far, I think it's 92-33. We're outscoring people. Yeah. It is unbelievable how we're jumping on people right away. I thought that double play was like the first turning point of the thing. And then the next thing you know, Wake is a really good team. They're going to be in the top 10 all year long. They got guys that could mash it, right?
They do.
And they climbed back into that thing. They went on a 9-1 stretch. They scored 5 in the top of the 7th inning. And all of a sudden, it's 13-9, and it's a ball game. They got a couple of swings left. I'm like, it'd be great to get a couple of runs here in the bottom of the 7th, kind of put a little more distance here. Next thing you know, we go out and score 4. Right, Ty Dooley gets a big base hit there, drives in a run. Derek Bender, a double, drives in a couple. Next thing you know, we're up 17-9 after 7, and that's it. Yeah, we get 6 outs in a row. 8th and 9th inning, ball game over. So great job by our guys last night to get a couple things go our way, keep the momentum going, and that is a huge resume building win.
Oh man, Chili, I'd love to hear your thoughts too, man. Just watching it from home.
Well, I couldn't agree more with what you guys were saying about how you felt the atmosphere through the television set. I had to actually watch the beginning of it, take my little one upstairs. So I went from TV to radio. And like we just said earlier, if you go from Sam to Joe Katz, you don't lose anything when it comes to the insight and the coverage. We've got 2 guys that are taking care of baseball when it comes to the broadcasting end of it. Joe, I know you appreciate that too with them. They're doing a great job. So when I went to the radio and I had it on my phone when I was putting my daughter to bed last night, on any big play, no matter what it was, defensive, big hit, whatever, you could just hear the energy coming through the speaker on my phone when I was listening to it. It was great. And then seeing the number today, it was like 5,105, I think was the number official number on attendance. It was on Twitter today. Seeing that number for a Tuesday night game, no matter who it is tremendous. I know Wake Forest, a highly ranked team. Joe, you nailed it. They're going to be in the top 10 all year long. They've played some good teams. They've beaten some good teams, and they're going to beat and play some more good teams the rest of the season. This is a great win for us. I put this in the same category as the Michigan game when we talked about it last week. Even though Michigan, their record is not like what Wake Forest is, you recognize the name. So if you're running in those baseball circles and you see what Coastal's score was against Wake Forest, doesn't matter if it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or a Tuesday, that's still Coastal beating Wake Forest 17-9. So that's some thoughts I had about it too, because when you start beating those name brands, that builds your brand. Like I said last week when it came to just playing and beating Michigan, and we got some stuff coming up about James Madison and NC State coming up soon, but man, you could feel it. I mean, you seriously could. I had, like I said, on the phone, listening to it with Joe Katz, watched a little more toward the end, and it was just great seeing all those people. TD, you put a good video out too of your view from the berm where you were standing.
TD from the berm, baby.
TD from the berm.
TD from the berm.
Feeling the berm. That's what
I'm glad you mentioned the broadcasters, because sometimes those guys get overlooked. But Joe Katz had Woody Woodall on last night, and he's going to try to get some more former Coastal alums on to help with the color analysis. And Woody Woodall, obviously a national champion, 2016, right?
Yeah.
Love what he brings to the table. Katz and Woody did a great job, and I love what Sam Wiederhaft and Jack DeLongchamp did last night too on the TV. Very blessed right now to have some folks on calling Coastal baseball that do their homework, that know the game, and really get into it, and they're doing a great job. Just want to mention those guys.
I'll offer something too, and it's a shot at Wake Forest and their fans.
How about that pitching lab for Wake Forest? 10. I mean, they hit. I mean, with that pitching lab, they need to go back to the lab.
You hit 9 and walked like 12 or something like that. But here's for all you Demon Deacons that were on social media talking about, this is a scrimmage team, and we're throwing our scrimmage guys out there. Well, guess what? Okay, look, Chase Burns. Contrary to everybody's belief, our guys actually hit 95 better than we hit 85. So by all means, you can put him on the bump. I don't think it's going to phase our guys a bit right now. You think Barthol's going to be phased? So I'm going to get a little lathered up. By all means, run your mouth, because we get to come back up to your place. And by the way, Winston-Salem, it ain't exactly a scary place to play. Your grandmama's carpet up there. All right. So it's your grandmama's shag yellow carpet up there. That don't phase us a bit, right? You don't scare us. Actually, there's nobody on our schedule that scares us at all. So, your social media throwing shade on our guys and our program, talking about scrimmage pitchers. Oh, okay. Well, like Joe said, you got the pitch lab. 17 runs. I don't care if it's your scrimmage guy or your starter. You got your ass whooped. Just back up the
It's
bus.
like David Bennett talking about baseball right now.
That's exactly what I thought of, Chili. That's the first thing that popped in my mind too.
Going home. I mean, look, we'll play at y'all's place tomorrow night. We don't care. We can play. Look, you and your grandmama's shag carpet. We'll play there tomorrow night. We'll see you in about 3 weeks. We're good. So I'm excited to talk about the next week's games. In all seriousness, what we have coming up with JMU and then NC State, and then long-term kind of thinking the next 8 games. And I text y'all about that. Chill, I know you're going to tee up some things with JMU and NC State, but Field Nation, Strut Nation, the next 9 games, 8 games, well, this one was 9, but the next 8 games before Chili gets into this real quick, they are massively resume-building games. And, yes, App State is part of that. Do not – what that old boy has done up there at App and Boone in 3 short years with baseball went from being completely irrelevant to within the top 100 RPI. You got to give them credit. You got to take them serious. So, with that being said, Chili, do you mind teeing us up for JMU and NC State?
I'm going to dovetail off you in the baseball talk and go into this part here. So James Madison, we'll see them. They have an overall record of 12-4. I thought this was interesting about them. RPI wise, they're number 10. We're 16 in baseball. Right now, James Madison undefeated at home. They lost 3 of 4 to Arkansas to begin the season, and they lost once to East Tennessee State. Leading batter, I have 2 guys we need to look out for when it comes to looking at their team stats. Calabrese, he's batting .390 with 6 home runs and 16 RBI. O'Donnell also has 16 home runs and 16 RBI. Ryan Dooley has 8 stolen bases. Fenwick Trimble, that's a great name. Fenwick Trimble. Joe, write that down.
He's on the
right down beside Seymour campus and Fenwick Trimble.
Hey, he's on the all name team right there.
Yes, he is.
That's
absolutely. He's an all strut member for our names go.
For all the names.
Fenwick Trimble is second on the team with 21 hits. Our fans that listen to this podcast are going to know who Fenwick Trimble is at the end of this podcast. Joe Vogatze, pitching wise, he's 3-0 with a 3.00 ERA. Jaden Kinsler has 9 walks. Donovan Burke is a pitcher on their staff who has pitched the most innings. He's got 20 1/3 innings, but he also has the lowest ERA on the James Madison staff. And Max Cooley has 23 strikeouts. So that's what James Madison's bringing to the table this weekend. I got a feeling we're probably going to see every one of those guys when it comes to pitching, because that was their best 2 or 3 that I read off when I looked at their team stats coming up for the weekend. Teddy, you want me to go ahead and do NC State while we're doing this? You want to talk about James Madison a bit?
So let's touch on James Madison a little bit. So again, they went to Arkansas, right? Were competitive in 3 of the games. They won 1 of them. I think were competitive 2 of them. The other one, they got 10-run rule. The SEC now has a 10-run rule after 7, right? Now, their RPI data doesn't lie, boys, but
here
it is misdeceiving. And here's my misdeceiving data point. Their RPI is a little, and their strength of schedule is a little misdeceiving. Again, all credit to them, right? They're 12-5. They've played a very strong schedule. But there's a couple games this year that they did not have to play due to weather. One of them was against Richmond, RPI 298. The other one was against George Mason, who we played and beat, RPI 190. And then, so they've avoided 2 games that ultimately could have drugged down their strength of schedule, right? But they are 2-3 versus they're 2-3 in quadrant 1. For those that we talked about last time, quadrant 1 is that top 50. Quadrant 2 is 51 through 100, and then 100 through 200 is quadrant 3. Quadrant 4 is 200 or better. So they're 2-3 against quality teams. Their RPI is 17. Their strength of schedule is 23. But again, if you were to factor those 2 games in, even by playing those, some of that would have come down. But nevertheless, they most likely would have beat them. They really haven't played anybody outside of Arkansas that's been a real quality program. No disrespect to everybody else, East Tennessee State, but I looked at who they've played. Again, JMU, we got to take them serious though. It's Sun Belt, open weekend. You're coming off of a big win. How can we handle the success, 14-game winning streak, things like that? So far, the guys have been able to put it out of sight, out of mind. What a coaching staff has done is really kept them recalibrated on the next at bat, the next pitch, and you can tell that is something that we are doing, and you can see that versus Wake, and you can see that versus Michigan. But hey, we got to have a big turnout in fans. Take JMU serious. Chili, you touched on the guys I was going to touch on. They can hit. They can look. They're good at hitting, sacrificing, hitting behind the runner, stealing bases. They field the ball pretty well. They play sound defense. Again, statistically, I've watched a game or 2. They're not going to make too many mistakes, right? You got to beat them, and that showed Arkansas, right? Again, they got beat one game pretty bad, but again, the other 2 games that they lost, Arkansas had to beat them. Matter of fact, Arkansas had to come back and beat them in 2 of those games, and they beat them one time. So, all credit to JMU. That's enough on them for me, but got to have a big turnout in fans. Got to start off Joe's point. We have got to pitch the first third of the game clean as possible. No big frames. Don't give up any big frames and then put up a bunch of crooked numbers, which, by the way, fun fact, Joe, Chili, in the last 5 games, I think we've only averaged like 2.5 frames of not scoring. How crazy is that? 2.5 frames. And for those on the frame is bottom half of the inning. I think it's like 2.5 in the last like 3 or 4 games. We have not put up a run on average.
That's what I said on the last one, man. 27 outs against this lineup. Take your chances, man. I mean, get 27 outs against our lineup. Good luck, man.
I'd be remiss. I'd be remiss if I didn't say, and forgive me for cutting you off, Blake Barthol, as much as he's crushing the ball, one of the most selfless, character-centric plays this year. He's crushing the ball. We had a runner on first, right? He looks up. They've got the shift on. What's he do? Lays a perfect bunt down, beats it out. Runners at first and second. We went on to score a couple runs that inning, and it's plays like that, the selfless relentlessness that Gilly has instilled in this program, that the entire coach. I mean, if that play is not emblematic of our program, I don't know what is. Now,
I was going to say Gilly. I was going to say Gilly. That's all.
That's
Gilly.
all Gilly. That's
Gilly.
all Gilly right there, man. NC State, there is no love lost between NC State and Coastal, and it dates back many, many years. And Chili, this is a big one up there in Raleigh, and they don't like us too much in Raleigh because we kept them from apparently going to a World Series one year.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody, excuse me, in the ACC that likes us anymore when it comes to baseball season. I can't think of a team that goes, hey, we're hoping Coastal does well. NC State, overall, right now, as they sit there, 12-3 overall, they just swept Boston College for their first ACC weekend in 3 games. They swept Boston College. They've also swept Towson this year. They do have losses to UNCG, Virginia Commonwealth, and Hawaii. Their RPI is at 37 right now, but they were as high as 13 at some point during the season. Before we see them in Raleigh on that Tuesday night on the 19th, they will be coming off a weekend series against Georgia Tech, by the way, too. So that's a factor to consider when we play them. The last thing I noticed about NC State, and I think this is really interesting, is they have a sophomore left fielder. Guys, his name is Matt Hogue.
How interesting is that, huh?
How-
Does he spell the last,
I was
last name
gonna-
spelled the same way?
Hogue. I think that's the same way, isn't it?
It
That's
is.
exactly the same way.
So
Now,
Matt Hogue.
how funny is that? I wonder if he's got as much gray as Matt's got going on right now.
Hey, screenshot that and send that to Matt Hogue and
I think I want to
tag it.
do a split screen like Matt Hogue and Matt Hogue.
That would be hilarious.
That'd be hilarious, man. That would be funny.
How about a
Interesting.
Twitter poll? Which Hogue do you prefer, the teal one or the
There you
Raleigh
go. I
one?
like it. There you go. Chili, I will offer this to aid what you've given to the fans and listeners. They have not played anybody in Quadrant 1 yet. We will be their first opponent in Quadrant 1. For those that don't understand, if you get a chance, go to warrennolan.com. He's fine-tuned what he has done the last decade. Does a real solid job. His algorithm does a real good real solid job of tracking a lot of this. Interesting enough, to your point, they have not played anybody inside Quadrant 1 yet.
That's
That matters.
interesting.
That
That's
is
really
I-
interesting.
I just looked it up. That was when you said that, because UNCG,
Is Georgia Tech Quadrant 1?
they are not. Georgia Tech's RPI is 166, which
Wow.
again, it's very early in the year. For
It
those
is,
that
yes.
until you hit game about 26, which is a 28, somewhere there's about halfway point. After you turn the corner on that, then RPI straight to schedule really starts to plateau out, and you really understand what you got. So it's a little early in the year on some of this stuff. But however, that's it. Yeah, they haven't played anybody in Quadrant 1.
Yeah, and I was sharing out RPI too, just honestly, just as a context, because I like seeing where we are versus somebody else RPI wise this time of year too, just to kind of see what kind of respect we're getting in terms of like who we're beating, who we're playing, stuff like that. That's a factor to me early in the year, just to kind of give us some perspective. And Joe, when you were talking just a second ago about numbers of runs we're putting up versus the schedule we've played and our record so far, that's astounding. We're 15-2. With 14 straight wins, and we've got that many innings so far where there hasn't been runs scored. It's just, that just kind of blows your mind for a second when you really sit and think about that.
TD mentioned that we're averaging 12 runs a game. If that keeps up, and I saw this, I think it was on 11.7 this morning.
Yes, it was.
We did
I
this
saw
out.
it too.
If we average that all the way through the end of the College World Series, it would be the most in college baseball history. The highest.
I'd love to have that issue, right? Of trying to maintain that all the way through that point, man. That would be something. But 12.2 runs. I mean, that's at some point you wonder if it's gonna dip, and that's where the pitching, right? That's where the pitching is gonna have to come in and keep that that margin of victory where it's at. Again, I love what we're doing, but I'm also a realist. Is it sustainable? But what you do, you look at the lineup. I know right where Joe's going with this. Right when 3 or 4 guys are really crushing it, there's a couple guys that aren't, and then they start crushing it, and those guys come. As long as we have 4 or 5 guys constantly peppering it, we got a chance.
The law of averages says it will probably come down at some
Right.
point. The law of averages tells you that.
Right.
I mean, through 17 games, we're not going to cover off the ball. The law of averages will probably suggest to you at some point it will come down. And like to your point, TD, that's when the pitching really. And we're not pitching poorly right now.
No, we're not.
That's when they're going to have to kind of, you're not going to be out there with a 12-0 lead or something like that. You're going to have to, make in the lips, the late inning pressure situation, get some guys out.
And that's a good time too, Joe. To your point, it's a good time to get some of those guys on the mound to chew up some innings and bring some people along too. Because TD, you went through a list of names that were from our bullpen of guys that we didn't talk about at the beginning of the year that are getting some innings right now. Because I'm not saying they're getting in because we're winning so much, but it's a good opportunity for the coaching staff to put some guys out there, let them chew up some innings and get them some work so we know where we can fit them in later on when it comes to situational stuff, for example.
Great point.
It's a great point, Chili. But hey, getting them out there, whether you're up 10, down 10, you've got to get guys out there. Sometimes it takes getting some of the younger guys out there. I mean, I can think a couple pitchers right now. Again, TD, I'm going to leave it. There may be a couple pitchers who we're getting out there that can become the middle relief guys. And some of our middle relief guys who are performing well could transition to a starter, maybe 1 or 2 starters. Maybe they're better suited for the middle relief. Again, that's not for me to say. That's for the coaching staff. They've been doing this a hell of a lot longer at a higher rate than I could ever think of. However, that may be something where you get an opportunity that maybe we switch and transition some guys. That's why you have middle week games. That's why you start freshmen and sophomores and guys you normally wouldn't start, like an O'Neal. Maybe O'Neal becomes a starter on Friday night. And again, I'm not suggesting we do that with Eichhoff because we know he has the ability. Maybe he comes a Saturday starter, but that's where moving it around, right? That's where those games in the middle of the week where they say they don't matter, they do matter. They do matter. So
I was a big outing for O'Neal last night.
It was
just a lay person at baseball. I was a big outing for him to go out and do what he did last night against that lineup. 2 times through and go 4 and a third. That was tremendous.
Right. I mean, do you move? Here's a thought. Do you move him to a Sunday? Move our Sunday starter to Saturday to Friday? Do you move people back? That's where this could change, where he can't go he couldn't maybe go full 5 innings because of what he pitched on Tuesday, but he could pitch a bullpen. For those who understand, he can go out and throw about 50 pitches on maybe Sunday and be 3 innings and then go from there. And again, that's where those games count. But I digress. NC State.
No, it's a good point. I mean, because there's a lot of moving parts that's going to happen all season long. You never know what's going to happen, so it's always good to have somebody ready to go, at a moment's notice. And Joe, I agree 100%. That was a big night for O'Neal. I remember watching him on the game. I was like, oh, I don't know much about him. Let's see what he's got. I really hadn't seen him pitch that much, to be honest with you.
And like I say, I think that first inning double play set the tone. I really do. I think that him and that defense being able to turn that set the tone and got him settled down, and he pitched really well for 4 and a third.
TD, just can you just ballpark something for me here? We've hit a lot of home runs this year. Yardage wise, is that a lot of ground we're covering, you think?
It is a lot of ground we're covering. And, I'll tell you who else covers a lot of ground. That's old Dan Signs at Dunes Realty Sales. Real estate done right. Yes. 128 Atlantic Avenue down there in Garden City. Again, dansignrealty.com. Toll free at 888-889-9312. Again, Dan Sign, class of 2001. Dunes Realty Sales. Real estate done right. I tell you what else we cover is some real estate here, boys. Do you realize that against NC, have you teed up NC State? Is that you've teed up?
Yeah,
or no?
We're good.
We're good. Do you know that we have a better record in Raleigh against them than we do at home? We're 6-7 in Raleigh. We're 2-8 at home.
That's interesting.
Excuse me. We're 7-6 in Raleigh and 2-8 at home versus NC State. So the fact that we get to play them in Raleigh, That's awesome. So we have JMU at home, massive opening weekend. Then we go to Raleigh, and then we take on TD from the Berms Lather Week series. Oh, you thought App State was only just football season? Au contraire.
Now that should be a T-shirt for the Strut Podcast, Joe
That
and
should
TD.
be. That
Should be a
yes.
T-shirt. That's
All
a good one, TD.
I'll call Bob.
You are filled with phrases tonight.
Hey, I'm all in, baby. I'm all in. But I'm excited for this weekend and the next 4 games. JMU, NC State, resume builders, man. Resume building weekend. Realistic, you got to just win the series. Would love a sweep, but if we take 2 out of 3, finish the week 3-1, TD, you're conceding the loss. To Joe's point, the law of averages, understanding common sense, winning the weekend. 2 out of 3.
That's all you want to do. Win the weekend. 2 or 3.
Win the weekend. 2 out
You
of
want
3.
3, but yeah,
That's right.
You want 3, but 2 or 3 will be fine. Yeah.
Win your
We
midweek.
did that all last year, you know.
That's right. Will you win your midweek and take your series on the weekend? You're 3-1, and you will continue to matriculate
There it
up
is.
the polls.
Matriculate the ball down the field, boys.
Gonna matriculate
That's it,
the ball
boys.
down the field, boys.
I mean, I got to matriculate myself to a wedding here in a couple of days. So
Yeah, man. We got to get him some rest. Chili,
Yeah.
what else we got?
Well, little Chili's coming to the wedding. He's got his tuxedo on, TD, as you can see.
Oh,
I think
man.
Little Nexus will be there too. You gonna be there, Little Nexus? He
Yeah.
says, yeah.
I got to get a little TD, man.
Yes, you do.
I got to get a little. Joe, will you send me the information on where to do that? Because
Absolutely.
I'll get
Yeah.
my wife to take a picture of me and do it.
We
Boys,
need
I'm
to make our
excited about.
bobbleheads like our profile picture for the podcast. Have them all. Our bobbleheads that never hung out together need to be there,
like
together in
that.
one picture.
And
I
we
like
need
that.
to have that by April the 8th. We need to have that by April the 8th. Our bobbleheads.
Big
TD, get
announcement.
on it.
Just
Big
saying.
announcement.
April
Big announcement on April 8th.
Yep.
Joe, Chili, wonderful show tonight, man. I'm excited about where baseball's at, where softball's at, where the basketball program's going. I know y'all are.
This was
Any
a
kind of-
podcast of hope tonight because we covered the football schedule and spring practice, our new basketball hire, and how well we're doing in the spring. This is like a very happy, fun podcast tonight. Joe, look how much Joe's smiling and just thinking about in reflection right now.
I am. Great time. Enjoy this stuff.
Well,
lot of fun, a lot of good stuff, a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
we don't have to have a lab to do it right.
There
That's
it is. And with that, Strut Nation, Teal Nation, we're going to call it a night. Shots up, everybody.
Shots
Shots
up.
And we will catch you next week.